Okay, so we just talked about parameters, but what about optional parameters? Well, what the heck does that mean, Dan? Well, I'm going to tell you. So, an optional parameter is basically where you can input some kind of facet or feature, like when we input my name as a custom thing. Well, we can actually make that optional where we have an alternative. Let's say they forgot to put the parameter of putting the name Daniel or the name Steve. Well, we can have a backup plan, which is called when that parameter is missing, we could do something different with that. So let's show you how that works. Let's make another function as we've been doing. Of course, it starts with the word function instead of the word sub. So we're going to say function space, and we'll just call this one welcome for, or actually we'll call this one optional welcome. We'll call it optional welcome. Okay, so we're going to open our parentheses, and the parameter that we're going to do, we can keep that. We'll call this CName. We're going to start naming this a little bit more meaningful. But instead of saying CName or CVal or whatever variable you choose, we're going to put the word optional. And that is actually a very important word. As you can see, once we end our parentheses and hit enter, you're going to see that the word optional decided to capitalize itself. And in fact, if you can kind of see it, it's actually like the same color of blue, maybe a navy blue, just like the word function and the words in function are. So it auto-capitalized. That means you spelled the word optional right. But anyway, here's what happens. So if we copy the same kind of thing that happened in the last one, and instead of calling it welcome 3, we're going to copy and paste the title. Because remember, you have to use the title, the name of the function. That is what the variable that you have to return, whatever the final product, the final answer you're going to return back. That's where you have to make it equal to. So the optional welcome function, the result is going to be equal to hello space. Join that with CName, not CVal. Join that with CName. Right? But this is optional. So what happens if we don't put the name in there? Well, let's see. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to use the isMissing function. And that is a function that tells Excel whether this particular parameter is there or not. So here's what we're going to say. We're not going to say if it's empty or not. We're going to say if, and we're going to use the isMissing function. If isMissing, open parentheses, and the variable that we're going to see if it's missing, which is optional, is called CName. So if that's missing, then we'll just have CName be equal to there. So it'll say hello there instead of hello Bob or hello Dan or something like that. End if for our if then statement. So now we have this cool little if is missing statement here. So here's how we're going to test it out. We're going to say sub, and we'll call this one test. We're going to test the optional scenario. Wow, that's way too many keystrokes, but oh well, it's already done now. So we're going to say, we're going to have my var equal to the optional welcome function. And I'm going to purposefully omit or forget about using the parameter that we need. And here's what's going to happen. Let's hit F8 a few times. So here we go. Oops, we forgot to put something in there. Now you notice CName is equal to missing. It's not equal to empty or null. It says that it's just missing. So that's interesting, isn't it? So if we hit F8 a little bit here, if is missing function on that variable, well, it sure is missing, so it would be true. So then we're gonna place into that variable something meaningful, like the word there instead of a name. So it'll say hello space there. If we forgot to put a parameter in there, it would at least have something. So we're gonna put that, hit F8, hit F8. Now we're here in the final result, and my var is in fact equal to hello there. Oh, and I'm going to say, well, I didn't want it to say hello there. Oops. So let's go ahead and just run through, press the F5 button or click the run button. Or you can hit the stop button, which is the reset button right here. But if we go back here and open the parentheses and say, oh, that's right, I forgot, I need to put a parameter in there. So let's just say Dan or Danny boy, right? End quote. whoops, end quote in parentheses. So now we've put our parameter in there, and it at least will evaluate to something even if we forgot to do that. So let's hit F8. So the is missing thing did not evaluate to true, so it didn't put there. It just left it as Danny Boy. And now when we return, the answer is hello Danny Boy, or whatever we chose to use there. Now the benefit of that is, instead of with the other one, so this one was welcome 3, right? And as you may recall from the last video, if we had not put our parameters, which were at that point required, it was going to give us an error and the formula would just throw up and just be disgusting and it wouldn't work. So if you recall, if we just run welcome, this gives you a value error. It says that, hey, there's an error going on here. So let me hit Control Z to undo that. But if we run our equals optional welcome and we forget to put a parameter, the is missing thing will take over and run the word there. And we'll say, oh, that's right, we forgot to put a parameter. Well, let's put, we'll just put Steve again. And it says, hello, Steve. It'll take whatever we want. But again, if we accidentally forgot any parameters, no error, it will just put something generic there. So that's the optional parameter. There's a lot more you can do with that, but that's just a very high level 30,000 foot view of how you can use the optional parameters, as well as using the is missing function to determine whether they have been omitted or not. We'll see you in the next lecture.